Why the New Orleans Saints denied the Miami Dolphins an opportunity to speak with Sean Payton, and restructures. What do they do for the New Orleans Saints salary cap as they're getting underway? And what do they mean for players' futures? We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? Welcome into a Monday episode, a fresh week here at Locked On Saints, your daily podcast covering the New Orleans Saints. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks as always for making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day every day. And don't forget that we are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube as well. And I'm your host, Ross Jackson, at Ross Jackson Nola on Twitter, USA Today's Saints Wire, Locked On NFL, and here with you every single Monday through Friday on Locked On Saints. And today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by our friends over at BetOnline, betonline.net. They've got you covered for more odds, props, and lines than ever before. Go and check them out at betonline.net, where the game starts. And where the game started for the New Orleans Saints this offseason was with Sean Payton, their 15-year out of 16 years. Remember, he was suspended that 2012 season. Head coach stepping away from the team. And well, it seems that there is no sort of shortage of interest for Sean Payton. And that's not surprising at all. But the Saints made the right decision here not too long ago. According to a report from Pro Football Talk, the Miami Dolphins apparently reached out to the New Orleans Saints for permission to speak with Sean Payton and kind of try to pursue him. They had this big plan about the idea of trying to team up Sean Payton and Tom Brady for a year, 2 years in Miami. And they were going to talk to the New Orleans Saints. Remember, at any point before Sean Payton's contract expires in 2024, if Sean Payton were to head to another team, that team would have to send the New Orleans Saints compensation for him. They'd have to trade for the coach in that case. So if the Miami Dolphins were to speak with Sean Payton and convince him to go to Miami, then the New Orleans Saints would have to receive some type of trade compensation. So why would the New Orleans Saints say no, right? He's not coaching the team in 2022. He is up right now for this big Fox job, potentially going to be a lead analyst for game days for Fox, which is awesome, effectively replacing Troy Aikman there, which I know a lot of New Orleans Saints fans, you are excited about, and I get that. But you look at why the New Orleans Saints would turn this down, where they could have received compensation, and there's two big things. There's two big reasons why they would have said no. The first of which being that the compensation wasn't enough, right? That the compensation wasn't even enough for them to say, yeah, you can start to have the conversation. So if, let's say, the New Orleans Saints were hoping to get like a first and, a third or something like that for the coach, right? I'm just throwing picks out there, but let's say that was the case, right? And the Miami Dolphins wanted to give more like wide receiver compensation, a second and a fifth, then the New Orleans Saints would kind of say, nah, fam, we're cool. Sean's got his own thing going on. We're Gucci over here. That's not enough for us to really uproot or really talk about this, have this conversation at this time. So y'all go on about your business and good luck with Tom Brady. And so that could be one reason. The second reason is simply Sean Payton doesn't want to. Sean Payton said in his 93-minute, and I'm always going to stress that because I still think that it's incredible that he gave away 93 minutes to talk to local media when he stepped away. But when he did, he talked about how his heart just wasn't in coaching this season in 2022 and that he wants to go and do television. He thinks he's going to be good at it. I think he's going to be good at it as well. And that's enough of a reason for the New Orleans Saints to say, nah, he's good. He's Gucci. He's got his own thing going on. We're not really worried about trying to upset what he's got going on so that y'all can have this pipe dream about trying to pair up Sean Payton and Tom Brady in Miami, right? So there's several different reasons why the New Orleans Saints would turn them down, not the least of which being compensation. But honestly, a big part of it is just the human element of understanding that this isn't what Sean Payton wants to do. He doesn't want to coach. If he wanted to coach, then maybe he would have already ended up with another team, right? When there were openings, when there were job openings, and he stepped away and added this, ended up adding the Saints to the list of job openings at that time. But it seems simple to say, hey, Sean Payton is just simply not interested in coaching in 2022, just like he told everybody in New Orleans Saints media, and just like he continues to tell everybody in all of his sort of media trips that he took, which were all also interviewing for all these other stations and everything and different networks and all of that as well. So no idea where Sean Payton is going to end up in the future. But for right now, I can tell you this, Sean Payton will not be a Miami Dolphins head coach. He will not be a Dallas Cowboys head coach. And instead, he's going to be on television. You're going to get to see him every Sunday. He won't be in the black and gold. He won't be on the sidelines, but it's better than seeing him in another team's insignia on the opposite sideline on Sundays when the New Orleans Saints play that team. So Sean Payton not going to be a Miami Dolphins head coach. Tom Brady probably not going to be the Miami Dolphins quarterback. Will he end up in San Francisco? Who knows? San Francisco's got a lot of stuff going on all of a sudden. So, but Sean Payton not going to be headed to Miami, and the New Orleans Saints said, nah, we're good. Talk to the hand. Thanks so much for the phone call. But that's not the only thing the New Orleans Saints had going on this week. They had some late week restructures that ended up saving them a ton of money, like they're switching their car insurance. Like they just raked a whole bunch of money right off of that salary cap overage that we kept telling everybody we did it. We did a whole episode about it just a couple weeks ago. You can go back. You can find it wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find it. The New Orleans Saints are not in salary cap hell. We talked about it. We broke it down in terms of why it is. Let's talk about it again. But now we can start to see the plan in process. The restructures to Michael Thomas, to Ryan Ramczyk, to Andrus Peat not only relieve the salary cap situation for the New Orleans Saints, but it also tells you a little bit about the future of those players in New Orleans. Let's talk about it as we break it down and continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. Before we get to all that, I want to tell you about our friends over at Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar on the market. If you haven't heard of the Built Puffs yet, the Puff Bars, they're absolutely incredible, and you need to try them because they're going to be your next favorite Built Bar. Whatever Built Bar is your favorite right now, mint brownie, peanut butter brownie, coconut, salted caramel, whichever one is your favorite. These Built Puff Bars are just absolutely outstanding because we're talking about protein-infused marshmallows. I don't know how they did it, but they do it, and they do it really well. And they cover them in 100% chocolate. Yes, even the Built Puffs. So you can get these different flavors like cinnamony churro, like coconut marshmallow, like banana cream pie, and whichever one you get, like I said, it's going to become your favorite. And if you want to hear more about these Built Bars, all you have to do is take a look at the macro chart because it's pretty incredible. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. These are protein bars that taste like candy bars, but if you compare those numbers to candy bars, you're talking about 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. So don't worry about all that. Head over to Built Bar because at Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They get the taste right first, then they figure out how to make it healthy. So go and check it out for yourself at Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15 for 15% off of your next order. That's 15% off with the promo code LOCKED15 at Built.com. All right, Who Dat Nation, continuing on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. Thanks as always, making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget to check out the Locked On NFL podcast and YouTube page as well, keeping you up to date with everything going on around the league with a local angle in less than 30 minutes. And over on the YouTube page, a bunch of extra additional content daily as well. So the New Orleans Saints spent a little bit of time on the Saturday before Mardi Gras, which, by the way, happy Lundi Gras, everybody, with Mardi Gras right around the corner. Tomorrow, Fat Tuesday, let's get it. We are talking a little bit about how the New Orleans Saints saved over approximately $34 million against the salary cap on a Saturday before Mardi Gras, when like most of us were just kind of like cooking red beans and like getting ready for parade or out at the parades and everything. The New Orleans Saints were like, let's just shave $34 million off the salary cap right quick. So here's how they did it. They restructured the contracts of Michael Thomas, of Ryan Ramczyk, and of Andrus Peat. So let's talk about first what this means for the team. So $14.5 million, let's say 14.6, round up a little bit, $1 million was converted from Michael Thomas's contract into a signing bonus. So what that means is that you take $14.6 million off the top of what Michael Thomas was owed going into 2021, leaving him with a veteran minimum of about a little over $1 million. Then you take that $14.6 million and you turn it into a signing bonus, which means you only pay a fraction of it this year as opposed to that full hit. And instead you end up spreading it out over the course of the next couple of seasons. In order to make that happen for the New Orleans Saints, they added 2 more void years at the end of Michael Thomas's contract so that they can maximize that. You can't extend the payments of a signing bonus over 5 years or more than 5 years. So they did it over 5 years, basically. So the New Orleans Saints have effectively saved a ton of money off of Michael Thomas by simply restructuring him and making it super simple. Now, remember, the New Orleans Saints were $76 million over the salary cap, right? As at the beginning of this last week, right? Just at the beginning of last week. So they did that when it came to Michael Thomas's contract. They did the same thing with offensive tackle Ryan Ramczyk, $18.2 million they converted into signing bonuses, and then they made sure that they ended up extending, you know what I mean? Making sure that they're hitting all 5 of those years. And so that ends up putting him in a situation to where he now frees up, along with Michael Thomas, $26.2 million just with those simple restructures. This wasn't anything fancy. This wasn't anything, this wasn't cutting a player, re-signing a player, asking them to take a pay cut, renegotiating their contract. It's just a restructure, which you just do. Bam. And basically what happens is that this isn't bad for the player. Michael Thomas now gets that $14.6 million up front. Here you go. Ryan Ramczyk gets that $18.2 million up front. Here you go. Hands it off to him. But for the Saints, accounting-wise, instead of it being, a full dollar, remember, I don't know if you remember, maybe you saw this, I don't know, but early on in the offseason, we use quarters, right? We use 4 quarters as a dollar, right? Either you end up paying that quarter, that full dollar right there, or if I gave you the dollar but only cost me 25 cents over the course of 4 years, that's basically what the New Orleans Saints are doing, right? So I can give you all the money up front, but accounting wise for me as a team, I'm paying it off yearly. You're my personal credit card. Boop, swipe, you get what you need, and then I'm paying over the course of a couple of months. So that saves $26.217 million for the New Orleans Saints. But were they done there? No, of course not. They weren't done there. Silly us to think that they would only do that, right? Just $26 million. They had to push the envelope a little bit further. So what they did was that they took $10.8 million from Andrus Peat's contract, left guard, and ended up converting that to a signing bonus. So they did the same thing, adding 2 more years onto his contract, which is already set to expire in 2024. And if you're concerned about giving Andrus Peat guaranteed money over the course of time, don't worry. This $10.8 million, his 2022 salary cap was already guaranteed anyway. The $11.9 million he was supposed to be paid this season. So then they take a big portion of that, they convert it to a signing bonus, add 2 years to make it, spread it out over 5, all of that. And then they end up being able to pay this off over the course of the next few seasons. So what that now means is that the New Orleans Saints end up getting basically $34 million off of their salary cap hit. And don't forget, again, $76 million to begin this season. So now the Saints are still about $42 million over the salary cap, but you look at a couple of pretty simple solutions to get them cap compliant at that point. We'll talk about what those moves are to get them there here in a little bit. But first, I want to stick with these 3 restructures here. I want to talk a little bit about how it impacts the future. We already talked about on this show after the Senior Bowl, or really during the Senior Bowl, that Michael Thomas was going to be back in New Orleans in 2022. We saw that confirmed by people like Ian Rappaport and all these other folks after the Super Bowl week, but we've known this, right? The restructure here that saved the New Orleans Saints probably somewhere around, let's say, $12 million, basically locks him into New Orleans in 2022. And because they also added those void years, that basically puts him in a situation to where he's kind of locked in 2023 as well, because you've pushed some of that money back and you've guaranteed him a higher amount of money in terms of what he's sitting on in terms of dead cap or guaranteed money or whatever in 2023. So you should expect to see Michael Thomas in the black and gold, number 13, back out on the field in 2022 and potentially 2023 as well. That's good news for the New Orleans Saints. So the restructure keeps him around. That's good news. Now, for some of you, you might already be seeing ahead here. If that's the way that it works for Michael Thomas, that means that it's also the way that it works for Andrus Peat. They've restructured his contract, which means that he's locked in for 2022. And really the only way for them to save any money by moving on from Andrus Peat, if you're still feeling that the Saints should do that, would be a post-June 1 cut in 2023. Remember, his salary cap was already guaranteed for 2022. That happened with the new deal. 2023 was the year to get out. Now it makes it a little bit tougher, right? Because you're going to end up putting yourself into some dead cap situations no matter what, right? It just depends upon how much of it you're wanting to pay upfront versus spread out over the course of time. That's why the post-June 1 cut would be the way to go if they wanted to move on from Andrus Peat before next season, 2023. But also you're expecting the salary cap to shoot up. It's all going to go to the moon. It's all going to go crazy. So we'll see exactly what it is the New Orleans Saints want to do with Andrus Peat, but you should expect him, just like you should have expected him before, to be in the field or on the field for the Saints in 2022. Now it seems like 2023 could be a possibility as well. But hey, if he plays injury-free, if he plays all the way through the season, then you don't mind paying him $18 million in 2023 for, a starting left guard that's going to give you 17 games. But we'll have to see if he's going to be able to do that. So they did that with Michael Thomas. They did it with Ryan Ramczyk, who we already know is a part of the New Orleans Saints future. It's just about, is it at left tackle or is it at right tackle? We'll see what happens with Teron Armstead more than the actual restructure to tell us what that's going to be. And they restructure the contract of Andrus Peat. What else can the New Orleans Saints do? Well, the fact of the matter is that it's easy for them to get under the salary cap. Let's talk about a couple of moves that they could do over the course of the next week to get it done before the combine is even over. We got that coming up for you as we continue on and wrap up today's episode of Locked On Saints. So, you can always bet on the New Orleans Saints to be able to navigate the salary cap better than any team in the NFL, as long as you don't mind restructuring. The other thing you can always bet on is whatever you want over at betonline.net, because they've got you covered with all the odds, lines, and props that you're looking for. It doesn't matter if you're looking for basketball, college, or pro. If you still want some football props, you can get in on that, where these quarterbacks are going to be playing, where the next fired head coach is going to be coaching. There's a ton for you to get in on. All the latest odds, all the latest totals, all the latest player performance props as well. And you can even bet on what's going to happen at the Olympics. You're able to bet on the halftime show. There was so much stuff for you to be able to do over at the number one spot for all of your betting needs. BetOnline remains the best place for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season throughout the 2022 season. So make sure you go and check them out. And it's not just basketball and football, right? You've got, like we said, the Olympics, but betonline.net also has you covered when it comes to hockey, when it comes to boxing, UFC, Vegas casino games, whole bunch of stuff for you to check out over at the newly designed website that you can head over to on your desktop or your mobile device and check out all the trends and action. It's all over there for you at betonline.net, where the game starts. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation, and wrap it up today's episode of Locked On Saints with a quick look at more restructure candidates for the New Orleans Saints. So the New Orleans Saints have already cleared more than $33 million by simply restructuring 3 contracts on a Thursday morning. Now let's talk about what else they can do to get under the salary cap. Like we mentioned, they are about $42.2 million over the salary cap. Here are some easy restructures that they can do to knock that all down and be more than ready with more moves that they can make to get further under the salary cap. Remember, this isn't just about getting compliant. They're going to want to spend some money this offseason, and I think that they will. And so here's what they can do to help do that. So you can take a look over at saintswire.usatoday.com. I'm new here. Leave me alone. Okay. Give me some patience. And John Sigler kind of breaks them down. We're going to talk about him here a bit as well. But Marshon Lattimore should be one of the next players to be restructured. $18.4 million you can save just about by restructuring Marshon Lattimore's contract. Remember, Marshon also has one of those weird roster bonuses that we talked about, just like Ryan Ramczyk did, just like a couple of other players have, that can end up saving $10 million just by restructuring something that's not even a base salary. So it's great. And again, that would be guaranteed money anyway, as long as they landed on the roster in 2022. And that Marshon Lattimore is anyway. So restructuring that money doesn't hurt you any. So that would get you $18.4 million. Let's math this up as we're going through. That's going to get $18.4 million. Next up, another big sum that they can get off the books would be by restructuring Taysom Hill's contract. Now, it would be the lower portion of Taysom Hill's contract, not the big $96 million potential contract. It would be the lower one, the couple years for about $40 million or so. That's the one that you would restructure. That saves another $7.2 million. So that gets you in a place now where you are sitting at, 18.4 plus $7.2 million. I should have been able to do that in my head. $25.6 million there. And then you can go ahead and restructure Alvin Kamara's contract as well. That gets you to $32 million. Going to save right around $6.4 million by restructuring Alvin Kamara. Now, the Alvin Kamara thing, we kind of have to see. We're getting closer and closer. It's March on Tuesday, so we're right there. Fat Tuesday is March, and we know that the first week or second week of March is when Alvin Kamara's trial is set for the Las Vegas incident. So we'll learn more about his situation then, and maybe restructuring takes another form or something like that based upon whatever that is. But if you do that, then you have $10.2 million basically remaining that you have to pay off, right? That you have to get under. So the easiest way to take care of that is making a decision on Bradley Roby, right? And this isn't a cap casualty decision. It's just thinking about, is $9.4 million really nearly $10 million? What is worth paying a guy that's going to take maybe 30% of snaps as your dime back? Probably not. So is he willing to take a pay cut? Is he willing to be extended so you could just knock his contract down a bit and maybe add some non-guaranteed money on there on top that says, hey, if you're here, you're good? I don't know if he's going to go for that or if he'd rather just hit the market and try to get a new contract. But in any case, you ain't really going to pay nearly $10 million to a guy to be your dime back, right? So it's not really a cap casualty question more than it is sort of the Latavius Murray question, right? Latavius Murray was cut because the New Orleans Saints felt that with Tony Jones Jr., which they were not right about, but where they felt that with Tony Jones Jr., that they would end up playing Latavius Murray not to the snap percentage or to the extent that his contract would have necessitated, right? So it just didn't make sense in terms of the pay versus play. I think you could have that same conversation when it comes to Bradley Roby. And if you let go of Bradley Roby, then that gets you to $41.4 million that you've saved. So you got about $800,000 left to go there to get under the salary cap. And there are a bunch of moves that they can do. They can restructure guys like Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, Malcolm Jenkins. They can restructure guys like David Onyemata or extend David Onyemata, which makes maybe a little bit more sense as well. And then that would end up getting them not only compliant with the salary cap, but under the salary cap with money to spend to help to build around, well, first of all, get a quarterback and then build around that quarterback and try to rebuild that offense. Plus you have the draft, plus you have all of that as well. And remember, it's the offseason, so only the top 51 players actually count against the salary cap. So you're constantly paying for players as you're signing them because you're bumping players out of the top 51 if you're adding someone into that top 51. So we'll track all of that as we continue on throughout the offseason here on Locked On Saints. Now, it's Monday. Usually we do a mock draft Monday today, but I wanted to get to these restructures, the big news around Sean Payton, all of that. So we're going to do mock draft Tuesday tomorrow. I'm probably going to just record it right now. So don't judge me if I'm wearing the same clothes tomorrow as I'm wearing today. It's not actually tomorrow because I'm flying to early in the morning on Tuesday, flying to Indy to be there for the combine. I'll be there for a couple of days, not the entire time, but I'll be there for a couple of days to hear Dennis Allen, check in with quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends as well. So we'll get a whole bunch of stuff. I'll have some time with the PFF guys. We're going to have a blast over the course of the rest of this week. So make sure you're tuning in every single day, Monday through Friday here on Locked On Saints. No days off here on the show. No weekdays off here on the show. But I appreciate y'all as always for supporting and for making us your number one listen every single Monday through Friday. Don't forget for your second listen to go and check out that Locked On NFL Draft podcast. Mock Draft Monday today over on Locked On NFL Draft. Eric Crocker and Ryan Tracy. Who do they pick for the Saints and why? They've got that and the rest of the first round as well for you. So make sure you go and check that out wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as well. And again, thanks everybody as always making me a part of your day. For everything else you need around the New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Ross Jackson NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you're living. Let me know how your mom and them. And trust you, that nation. I'll holla at you.